Hello. Hello, Hilda. Whittling a stick, excellent. I have some whittled sticks ready to draw with you tonight, this evening, this afternoon, wherever you are. Good morning. Hello, Laura. Hi, Craig. So where's everybody watching from today? Just take a moment for people to come in. Craig, I'm glad you're looking forward to this adventure. Me too. It's nice to have you here. We have a wonderful portrait photo that we're going to work from, and I'm really happy to share this with you today. I have my Alberta, Canada, Juanita, hello, Laura. I have a terrible echo. Do I have a terrible echo? We'll try and sort out any technical problems before I get going. Hello, Vera, Pam, Kat, Shannon, hi, Christine. So lots of USA, Morocco, wow. Can someone confirm my sound? Do I sound all right? Or is there some feedback problem? Because I can't hear what you're hearing. I just hear myself. Kate, Louise, Annette, Devon, Denmark, San Francisco. No echo. Good. Thank you for confirming that. We had some hiccups last time, but it's great that everything seems to be going well now. Tennessee, Arkansas. I'm in central Germany. I've been living in Germany for I think about 10 years or so now. Live here with my wife and 3 small children. One of them sleeping next door, so I'll try to let her sleep. Hi, Paul, Nellie, Sylvie. It's wonderful having you all here. Yeah, so I love natural inks, and over the past four years, I think 4 years ago, I started working with natural inks and done a lot of oil painting and watercolor, acrylics, and I wanted to move away from the toxic elements and the waste that was being created. We live in a pretty isolated place where we have a reed bed system that filters all of our water, and I wanted to keep my painting and art as clean as possible for where I live and for my family. And so I started getting into natural inks, and I worked with Acorn ink for a long time and had a color explosion last year once I found the book Make Ink. So I have 2 books to share with you today, which are both absolutely wonderful. Make Ink and The Organic Artist. And these have been amazing for me. I feel that it really gets me into nature, collecting things with my children or alone, and I constantly have this kind of ink perspective, like I wonder if that's going to make ink, and just learning about new ways to engage with my surroundings and let that flow into art. When I'm looking to the side, I'm kind of looking at your comments here. Yeah, so natural inks, something I love, and I'm really happy to share that with you. That it's become really a core part of my drawing practice and my artwork, and something that I think is really connecting and really important for me, and in that sense, I'm really happy to share it with you. And I'm going to be teaching a sketchy art school class, which many of you may be aware of, and that's starting in June, and it's going to be 4 weeks of classes with the topics of line and shadow and light in the 2nd week. 3rd week, edge control, and 4th week, we're going to have a focus on composition and storytelling, letting elements of nature flow into our portraits. So in that sense, I'd like to show you a new ink that I've been working with the past week. The chestnuts have been blossoming here. We have white chestnuts and pink chestnut blossoms. And I've been making a lot of ink. Perhaps you've seen on my Instagram account, I posted some of the photos and some of the process of that. Hey Jen, Jen is here. Great, love the sustainability. Yeah, I think it's just essential to live in harmony with our surroundings and to develop that communication and understanding with nature, that we are part of nature and not to do anything, create anything out of a sense and desire to create something beautiful, to then be creating something harmful with the waste that we produce. So I just love combining that with drawing cool portraits. I love drawing people and people's stories and connecting to people and having that kind of exchange with the person that you're drawing, as well as with nature. And it's great to see that Jen is here. That's wonderful. We had a little chat on Instagram last night, and he said that he actually used to make flower water paint, which is essentially what I have here to share with you as well. Here's some of the dried chestnut blossoms. And I have two slightly different inks that I've made from it. And yeah, Jen shared this story with me that he created this mural on the floor of the quad at his high school, and that it took months for it to fade away. And I just thought that was such a beautiful connection that we've both been working with floral inks and plant colours. And it's so cool to have you here, and thank you so much that we're able to work with your wonderful portrait today. On that note, we'll bring Jen up here. Such a cool photo. And I'm going to share something with you. I have a weekly drawing session, Tuesday nights, and we do a lot of quick drawing. And in my ink drawing development, as I've done a lot of quick drawing and a gestural drawing to kind of lose that fear of working with ink, which I definitely had when I started working with ink. So I'm going to just do a quick drawing to start off with. 2 minutes, and I'm not going to be getting caught up on how much does it look like Jen, and I'm just going to kind of get flowing. And I think loosening up in that way before we start a longer piece really helps to get into the flow. And something I encourage you all to practice. And if you'd like to, you're very welcome to come and draw with us Tuesdays. And I'm sure maybe someone can put the link up to that, or you can check it out in my Instagram. You'll see our Tuesday drawing sessions. Everyone's welcome, every skill level, €5 or pay what you want. And it's so much fun, it's so cool. We just draw each other and laugh, it's great. So I will start this quick drawing. I'll just put on a 2-minute timer and switch over to the table. It's nice that that's working well. So at the moment, I'm not reading your comments too much. It's nice I can see a few of them, but I'll just focus on the flow of what I'm doing, and taking a note from France, who I think does her live streams amazingly. Then I'll go back and I'll try and pick out some of the questions and bring them up and address your specific questions, because I'd love to just be in conversation with you all. And as you have questions, if something catches my eye, I'll pop it up and talk to you about it. Here I am. Here's my paper. Sometimes a bit wobbly with my tripod setup, but that's okay. So I'm going to start this quick drawing will be with Acorn ink, which is super dark and one of my favorite inks. I think it's the one I've used the most. Acorns are so abundant here, and it's really close to that, the traditional ink that we know and love, that's dark, and such a great teacher. And I have an elder pen here, one of my favorites that I've cut from an elder branch. It's drawn a lot. So I'll just start now. All right, 2 minutes. So super loose. We've got these, wonderful glasses. My ink pot is a little empty, so I've got to tip it up on the side. There are a lot of kind of things with working with ink, especially with dip pens. You've got this thing, you've got to keep dipping, and it's usually not the dip pen's not my go-to thing for a quick drawing normally. I'll use a fountain pen, but why not? We just try things out and grow, try new things, have fun. And just, if you've got 2 minutes, on Tuesday nights we start with 30 seconds, and you just go for it, because you can just let go of the expectation that it's going to be perfect. You just kind of get moving. And it's really about looking at your reference more than at the drawing. I think it's a very important thing that I and many people may have a tendency to look a lot at the drawing as opposed to the reference that you're actually working from. And I think when you learn to look, learn to see what you're drawing, then you pay attention to your reference differently. So this will just a little quick warm up, and then I'll be working with the chestnut ink, which I think is a really interesting color, and talk about the ink making with you guys. All right, I'm starting to drop off of the frame here. Yeah, 2 minutes. Okay, so that was my 2 minute drawing, and now we'll move on to the chestnut inks. Yeah, so quick drawing, lots of drawing, draw a lot, especially having kids around. This is something I mention a lot. It's just when I realized I don't have to have 2 hours to draw, it really it helped a lot just to get drawing, and not to have excuses about the time I do or don't have. I'm just going to kind of mark my paper here so I know where you can see what I'm doing. I'll try and keep it in here. All right, and I have 2 pens. These are also elder pens, and I've cut them both as calligraphy nibs, these broad edge pens. And the broader the better. I just love the line variation you get with calligraphy pens. And yeah, they're just dead branches waiting to make art. I have a pen for each of the inks, because this one has this ethereal light color, and this one ended up being pretty orange. This has baking soda in it. So what I did with the flowers was I cooked them. You can also just kind of chop them up and let them soak in cold water. You may have different results, whether it's hot or cold. And if you do it cold, it's even less energy expenditure in creating the paint. So this was cooked with some baking soda, and it has a really interesting orange color, which I was totally surprised by. This is so lovely and pink, and it's kind of turning purple as it dries. So I ended up with these 2 different colors. And because this one has baking soda in it, if I use the same pen in both of them, it's going to influence this. Okay, there was a question here, how do I cut this? Oh yeah, here we go. Can pop that up here. How do I cut a slit in the end of a fountain pen? I have a few different knives. I don't use the same knife to carve, to cut the slit in the pen as I do with just to carve. I have this awesome Opinel knife, which is a knife I always have with me everywhere, and I've had it for 13 years. The tip is broken off. It's getting nice and rusty. I've carved stuff into it. And this is like the knife that I use for everything. But to cut that slit that you saw in the calligraphy pen here, I used this. I also have another carving knife, which has a super fine, sharp tip. Indicate the books. I'll be, in my class, I definitely reference them. The Organic Artist. I'll just show it here. Organic Artist by Nick Netto. This is amazing. From making your own paper, bookbinding, making charcoal, pens, brushes, paint. It's awesome. Get it. And make ink. So I was working on a lot of kind of sepia tones. That was a response to Juanita's question. By Jason Logan on Instagram. Nick Netto Earth Arts, I think. And the Toronto Ink Company on Instagram. Beautiful Instagram accounts. I'm going to do a series of Instagram stories referencing a lot of the natural ink workers and that inspire me. So keep an eye out for that. I'll be doing that soon. Okay. Cindy, yeah, the sketchy community is awesome. Just drawing people together with people all over the world. It's great. So that was a knife question, and I'll make a video about knife sharpening. I think there are different ways to do it, but it's important you don't get a stainless steel knife because they're really hard to sharpen. The carbon knives, they rust, but it's really soft, and you can, it's a perfect knife for sharpening. You can keep it so sharp. It's great, and you can do almost anything with it, and it's so simple. It's beautiful. I love them. So now, talked a bit about the knives. Now we'll start drawing. I'll have a little drink. If you have any questions, feel free to write the questions here and draw along together. And I'll start drawing. I don't have a really structured approach. I don't do preliminary drawings unless I really want to spot on likeness, and I'm spending a lot more time. But now we have like another 40 minutes. I'm just going to get into it. What paper do I prefer? Yeah, paper's really important because you don't want it bending and distorting. Sometimes I work really wet, and if your paper's warping, then you get these pools of ink, which can look cool when it dries. You get interesting things. But a heavyweight paper. Watercolor paper, like in metric, it's like 350 or over 400 GSM. I'm not sure what that translates to, but really stable, sturdy paper is great. I'll use this, the baking soda variation. It's darker, it has a nice orange color, and start drawing. So just kind of finding my space. How much room do I have to draw here? And just kind of indicate At the moment, I'm going to kind of set up a frame of reference. I just kind of bounce around, comparing angles and shapes as I draw. So I've just got the top of the head, and sometimes it's interesting to work from outside to in. So maybe I'll do that this time. Get a kind of silhouette and just work into it. It's nice having you all here. So I just wonder how the lighting is, how orange this looks to you. I was amazed when I saw how orange this ink turned out. I thought it was going to be some kind of pink. And that's a really fun thing about the natural inks. I'm I'm not too concerned. I love colour, the world of colour and natural colours. It's all inspiring and amazing. But I am not too concerned about getting a specific colour. I think it's a beautiful challenge. And when I was doing a lot of oil painting, that kind of colour matching and really trying to faithfully represent what you see, I think it's a great thing to do. But I also just love black and white, sepia. If you get your contrast and structure values, your value right, then that's you've already achieved so much, and you can have such a powerful result without color. And yes, using there are different modifiers when you're making natural inks that will affect the color, change the pH value of the color, how acidic or alkaline it is, and it has dramatic kind of influence upon the color that you end up with. And the paper can also have a really bring its own acidity to the game. And I've had inks which I thought would be purple, and then as they dry on the paper, they turn green. And yeah, it's just fun and kind of magical, alchemical, playing around with these colors and just seeing how they turn out. So here I've just got this silhouette, and I'll start putting some details into it. And these glasses are just amazing. I think that the glasses and the moustache, Jen, they're so cool. Jen has a lot of, in the Sketchy app, a lot of really cool moustache photos. I've never sported just the moustache myself, but maybe one day, who knows. Yeah, so if you in the Sketchy Art School, Android and desktop users can participate. The Sketchy app is on iOS. And if you have access to the Sketchy app, then you'll be able to see all these amazing photos that Jen has. And you can follow Jen on Instagram at JenTask, right, Jen? If you're there, you could, and if you want, you could feel free to put your Instagram account into the chat. Pretty inspiring and amazing. Yeah, I just thought it was so wonderful when you said that you used to make inks from plants, paint from plants. It's wonderfully fitting. So yeah, part of the thing with ink is, if you make mistakes, like this little line, it's like you just go with it, incorporate it into the end result. So there are different approaches, and I think in the classes, the lessons in my Ink Naturally class, I'll go through a couple of different approaches that I have used. Because the one is really looking totally focused and intent, look at a shape, and then just try and match it perfectly, or you just kind of get moving, get drawing. Sometimes you'll put a nose somewhere and then realize partway into the drawing, like, oh, maybe that should be a bit higher. But you just got to keep going with it. And I used to totally get hung up on getting the likeness right, which is extremely frustrating when, you can't and you want to, but you can't. And I think letting go of that kind of self-imposed expectation that this should look like that person is such a liberating experience. And through that process, then maybe you end up getting closer to actually getting someone's likeness. It's part of the journey, part of the fun. But I love it when you kind of create a new person. I think that's so cool. It's like, this doesn't look like the person I was drawing, but it looks like a person. And looks like an interesting person. That's also a fun result to end up with. So here, there's this awesome reflection in the glasses. Just putting that in here. So I'm not going to have any super intense black in this image. And I think ink is a lot about finding, where's the darkest dark, where's the light, and just bouncing around between that relationship between light and dark. And it's interesting to use an ink which just isn't black. But as I'm working, I'm thinking of this color, this orange, as if it was black. So that's my darkest dark. And maybe you can kind of see how wet it is. It's really wet. And you can drop pigment into it and it will intensify. It will take longer to dry. So with this approach, it's good to, you kind of set it up and you've just got to leave it to dry. It won't dry during this live stream, but I'll be able to set it up and let it dry. And once it's dry, I'll post it. You can check out the results. And part of what I love about these inks that aren't so dark is that as they dry, the pigment kind of shifts to the edge of the form. Oh, we lost the focus here. And you get some really interesting shapes. Thank you, Jude. I love the color of this ink too. Who else loves the color of this ink? I do. I was amazed. I had been wanting to make an orange. And I thought I was going to have to find something else. I saw someone on Instagram had made a nice orange ink using magnolia leaves. I was like, I've got to get some magnolia leaves. And I've spotted some as we've been driving recently, but was never there, able to pick any. But this turned out super orange too, so that's cool. So got that. That's already looking pretty fun. And yeah, there's this, I've just been blocking in that space and filling it with ink. But this lovely thing I'll just draw over here is what I love about the calligraphy pens is as you're drawing, you've got these, that seems to be out of focus. It's focused here, but not there. That's weird. So with this pen, or any broad edge calligraphy pen or a flat brush, you can, can create these really fine lines or have really thick lines, which is cool. Different inks in one piece, yeah. And it's super interesting because Cindy just asked about combining different inks in one piece. The way they react with each other can be really interesting. And something really cool is, I mentioned earlier that there are these modifiers you can put into the ink which change the pH value. And you can, with the one ink, you can put different things into it which will change the color of the same ink, which is kind of cool. So you can paint with lemon juice into I'm just checking out this focus issue. Oh well. You can paint with lemon juice into a drawing or that you've already done, and that will change the color. It's like magic. So cool. The natural ink drawings is a super good question. How light fast they are, and it totally varies, and it depends what they are exposed to. If they're hanging on the wall, I have some behind me over there, but they're all pretty new. But I have a lot of natural ink drawings that I've done which in acorn and walnut ink, which 4 years hanging on the wall with no protection still look as good as they did when I initially drew them. But some of them will fade really fast. If you've got it in a sketchbook though and it doesn't see the light of day that often, then they can last for a really long time. And that's part of the process as well, is finding out what, what kind of, what colours persist, what fades, how it all shifts and changes, and I think just an amazing, lesson on non-permanence and just that thing of being connected to nature as well, because it all changes. But yeah, that being said, some stay really light fast, especially if you're working with earth pigments and mineral pigments, then they often have like more of a longevity. Because some colors, they just as they oxidize from when it's wet to the drying process, it will change color as it dries on the paper, and then as it ages, the color may change as well. So it's just a matter of testing, trying things out. There's some amazing, on Instagram, there are just so many amazing people working with natural pigment and like archiving all their experiments, and it's so cool. So I haven't been talking too much about my drawing process, mostly about ink, but getting to answer a couple of questions, which is cool. But here, yeah. So just thinking, you've got this strong line. It's really important in the mouth. I think maybe my proportions are a bit stretched, but I think it's cool. It's fun. And yeah, so we've got that the between the lips, this nice dark line. So it's important to get right. And I love these little things like freckles, moles, pimples, facial hair. You probably hear me talking about that a lot, but it just it gives so much kind of life and detail to a drawing. And it doesn't, you don't have to do it spot on. Like make sure every hair is exactly where that hair is. It's you're just kind of implying that detail and giving the eyes something to look at. And as I'm drawing this, I'm thinking, oh, his moustache should be maybe a bit bigger, and just seeing things are a bit different, but still, it's okay. Maybe there's something that I'll be able to shift and change a bit, but I think it's already a pretty fun drawing. And it's been a totally important lesson for me. It's often said, don't be a slave to the reference. And for a long time, I totally had this expectation that it's got to look exactly like that person, and it's got to be right. But I think, from my own experience, I think a lot of my drawings that then, where I haven't tried so hard to capture something, that they really have a life of their own, and it's fun to experiment with that. Sticky art, hello. Yeah, love the reference. I love it too. Thank you, Jen. I was like, what am I going to do? And I was going to do this little eyebrow hair, and then I saw this big fat drop of ink on the pen. So sometimes it's good just to slap down a lot of color, but sometimes it's important to tap the edge of the pen against the inside of the glass, to the jar, to make sure that you're not going to have a big fat blob of ink where you don't want it. And just, that's all just stuff from experience of trying it out and drawing a lot, getting to know your materials. Different inks will behave differently as well. Like sometimes I just don't have any binder, or that can really give a different consistency to your ink. These have gum arabic. Usually it's actually the first ever inks I've made with gum arabic, which It's kind of a new dimension for me. I've been using cherry sap, which I find here. I really like sourcing all of my own materials. So there's, not to my knowledge, there's no acacia trees growing around here. Gum arabic is like acacia gum, the sap. But someone told me, oh, you can use cherry sap as binder for your paints. And then my eyes were opened to the world of cherry sap, and I started seeing it everywhere when I was in the garden or in the forest. I didn't realize how many wild cherry trees are growing around where I live. And I think that's a beautiful part of connecting to our materials in nature like that. You really start to have a new awareness for these plants, where they grow and what you can use. So start putting in a bit of kind of value variation here. Just laid in all the shape, got these dark areas set. It's like, okay, that's going to be the darkest stuff. And with these light inks, you can pull things, like when you make a mark, you've got your pigment on the page, you can really pull it and push it around, so that here I've really dropped in a lot of pigment because I want it to be nice and dark. Here's some more. And that if you're making a mark, you can really pull it and it will thin right out, and you just in the one stroke you have a lot of variation in the intensity of your ink. Yeah, so that's something which I think is nice. Something I do a lot when I'm working with ink is cherry sap. Claudia is Kirschharz, Kirschgummi, and it's important that in summer when it's rained a lot and the cherry trees are pushing a lot of sap through the tree, the hearts, gummi. Sometimes they really push out these big chunks of resin. I have some here. I'll just have a look. And sometimes you get these really big chunks of sap, and maybe I can't find it. I have some somewhere. I have so many things here. All sorts of treasures. I might have to show you another day. But yeah, you can take that cherry sap and put it in water because it's water soluble. So cherry sap is Kirschharz, water soluble. You put it in water and then you add some of it to your ink, and it's a beautiful, easily sourced natural binder. It has a particular smell, but that's okay. So Hilda just asked what kind of wood makes a good pen. Sticky art says probably any hardwood. Yep. If it's for when some pens I sharpen to a point, and then it's really good to have a hardwood, so it maintains that point, because as it gets wet, the wood softens. So you really want a nice hardwood that's not going to that will still continue to give you a consistent hard line as you're drawing. But cherry, we have a lot of cherry here, and cherry wood is a great wood. So add these twigs, and you can experiment with different twigs. In general, with natural art supplies, you also need to self-educate or be aware. Some things are poisonous. So you don't want to go making poisonous art supplies and then maybe chewing on your pens, and who knows what's going to happen. But there are a lot of timbers which are totally benevolent, and you can even chew on them. You can chew on them and make paintbrushes, which is in Nick Netto's book. the organic artist, he has these chewed paintbrushes. You can just make your own paintbrushes. Bamboo pens, Natalia. Of course, bamboo is amazing. What an amazing plant. Dana says, let's do Gillen and Sketchy some likes. So yeah, like us. Bamboo pens are awesome. And what's great about bamboo and elder is that they're hollow. And for these broad edge calligraphy pens, you kind of have this ink reservoir that's, as you dip, it holds a bit more pigment, some more ink, so you don't have to dip as often. So that's something that I really love about these hollow plants. Elder, walnut, bamboo. Apparently, forsythia. I'm not sure how it's pronounced in English. Forsythia. It has beautiful yellow flowers. I made some ink with it a couple of weeks ago, and that has like hollow stems as well. I'm just reading some questions. If you have a question you really want to get answered right now, you can pop it in there, and I'll see what you got. Learning how to sketch. Give you some tips. Draw a lot. Take a sketchbook with you wherever you go, and just draw. Draw a lot. Draw from life. It's good to draw from photos, but it's good to draw from life because you have to understand the three-dimensionality of what you're trying to draw. If you want to do like representational drawing, then it's pretty difficult just to divine things and be able to draw it and make it look what it looks like. So draw a lot from observation, and draw a lot. So I'm planning for this, that I'm going to like slap down a colorful background because this red is just so amazing. And I was wondering, should I do it different than the ink I'm using? And that's the thing, you know, it's often nice to bring in different inks and different colors. Bamboo sprouts, poisonous? Could be. But bamboo doesn't grow here, so it's not something I've tried out. But yeah, it's important to educate yourselves about what it is that you're wanting to work with in nature. And until now, I have tended, there's some kind of chemical modifiers you can use in ink, different salts and stuff that I haven't used thus far, because I really like the ease of which I can do this and do it with my kids, and know that there's nothing harmful involved. But if you're open to using those things, then there's also like another kind of dimension of things possible. You can, I was just thinking, this maybe not so dark. You can also soak up a bit of that pigment, tissues, paper towel. It's like this inside edge here on the outside in the shirt, maybe I'll leave it white. I'll kind of do an inverse thing of what's going on in the shirt. But I didn't want this neck contour competing with the glasses so much. And drop some more pigment into the moustache. How do you deal with mold in ink? That's a good question. I've dealt with a lot of mold. I use cloves. You can put whole cloves into the ink, or clove oil, a couple of drops of clove oil. It's also possible to use a few drops of alcohol like here at the chemist, the apotheker, you can get this alcohol. Maybe rubbing alcohol, and that's something which will prevent the mold growth. And certain things are also more prone to getting moldy. You can also put them in the fridge. You can just kind of make it as you need it, which is, I think, super cool, especially to be somewhere and just gather something that you see, like poppy petals, and then put it in some water and make some ink and start drawing with it and just use it right there. I love that kind of the immediacy of taking something from a place and creating something, creating a portrait with that. I'm going to just maybe fix my focus problem a bit. I don't know. I just noticed that my camera up here is a bit crooked, but that's okay. A bit of skewing is always good. Just roll with it. Work within our constraints of what we have. So cloves and vodka. Cloves and vodka to stop your ink getting moldy. Is it a hazard to live with mold? If you're not going to eat and drink your ink, I don't think it's too bad. I try and keep my inks separate from food stuff. That said, I do have an ink shelf in the fridge, but I know it's all like non-harmful stuff and there's no mold in there. But you can also, if mold does start growing, you can like filter it, strain it, get rid of the mold, and you can still use it. And it's, if you want to, like if you're making jam or preserving something, you cook your jars so that they're sterile, and if everything that you're working with is sterile, you're also less likely to get moldy ink. Maybe now I'll put something in the background. I wonder if I'm going to block it in or just have some lines maybe. I like vertical hatching. Or maybe wait till just to the end and I can keep thinking about what I'm going to do with that. I mentioned the type of paper. I tend to use watercolor paper, heavy paper that doesn't warp too much. It is warping a bit here because here it's very wet, but it's still maintaining its shape pretty well. And the acidity of the paper will also influence the color of the natural inks. So that's something to watch out for. I thought I had brought some lemon with me, but maybe I didn't. You can put lemon in to change the color. I have this second ink and I haven't used it yet. It's a lot paler, so maybe I'll put a bit of that in for some of the areas where it's not so dark, but still want to get some tonal variation. Have I made metal inks? I have made copper ink, which I think is probably the most unhealthy ink I've made. So it's something I tend to be wary with. I like to have the stuff in our house be safe for our kids as well. It's definitely out of the kids' reach. But copper oxide ink, oh, what an amazing color. It's this incredible blue, and it's so beautiful. It's cool. So far, I've only done one drawing where I've used it, and that was the one of Bryce in 30 Faces, 30 Days. In case you saw that. It's in my Instagram, check it out. Half pink, half blue. It's beetroot and copper drawing. Thank you for the good vibes, Yassine. So occasionally I'm seeing what you're writing. It's nice to have you here. Nice to know there's some people out there watching and drawing things. And how many people are drawing along? I always think it's amazing to see with these live broadcasts and Sketchy how many people then instantly upload the drawings that they just did. It's pretty impressive, and it's cool to know that you're drawing together with people wherever you are in the world. It's such a nice thing about the Sketchy community. It's interesting. It's not as light as I thought. This is the other ink, so I may just soak up a bit of that. So it has so there's just two inks that are made from the same flower. This is more pink, and when you add a lemon to it, then it's really really pink. It's as if some of that the original color of the blossom comes back to the ink with the acidity of the lemon. Oh, cool. People saying they're drawing with me. Great. Drawing. Excellent. It's nice to have you drawing with me. Using watercolor instead of ink. Awesome. Use whatever you want. Use whatever you've got. And I think for a lot of this approach, watercolor is a perfect kind of complement or substitute for ink. When I started painting, I was my first media was watercolor. Drawing with sharpened brushes and instant coffee, excellent. Good to hear, June. In 30 Faces, 30 Days, someone was drawing with a sharpened chopstick. I love improvisation and resourcefulness. So that made me happy that someone had turned a chopstick into a pen. So this is a pretty cool. I've been finding a lot of these like weirdly shaped branches recently, and go outside with the kids and they're playing, and I'm like, oh look, there's some dead branches on an elder tree, and just make some cool pen with it. I love it. Dana just asked what was the first thing I made ink out of, and it was walnut husks, and they're amazing. The walnut tree, so nutritious and so inky. Walnut husks are amazing. And the funny thing with that was that I made it to stain wood with, and I had it for like 7 years before I even realized that I could also draw with this walnut stuff that I made. I had a jar called Walnut Stain. I still have the jar. And like 7 years later, I asked a friend, oh, what can I use to make ink? Walnuts. I already have some walnut ink. So I just started painting with that. That was my first ink. Thanks for asking. Walnut ink is amazing. And a couple of weeks ago, for the first time, I made Walnut Blossom ink, which also was a lovely dark brown colour. I'm wondering that it'd be cool to have some colour in the frame of the glasses, but I think I'm going to leave it for now. I don't want it bleeding out too much. But I kind of have this vision that when I get some lemon juice, which I don't have with me, unfortunately, I'm going to put a background shape of the natural chestnut blossom ink that doesn't have baking soda in it. This orange ink, if you tuned in late, this is chestnut blossom with baking soda orange. and this is that I put in here, which is this kind of pinky color, like a pinky brown. That is the chestnut without any modifiers in it. So I'm going to put some of that into the background, and later I'll put, maybe once it dries, I'll put some lemon juice into it, and it's going to change the color. So check it out, Instagram or Sketchy, to see the final result with lemon juice. I think it'll be pretty cool. Just got to get a brush. A suitable brush for the background. I like big flat brushes. This one is not fancy. It's like in a pack of 10 and cost €2 or something. And I'm just gonna put a lot of this down. And I love being able to, it's nice to have nice brushes, and I have some amazing brushes. But it's also cool to just be able to make 100 pens from sticks. You can have one pen for every ink. And yeah, don't get too hung up on the materials that you're using. Just draw, just go for it. So using cheap art supplies or expensive art supplies, just use what you got and have fun and work within the set of limitations that they provide, or the magical powers that they grant you. Kind of crooked. Here we go. So yeah, I'm just filling in this space, and I'll wait for it to dry. I think that'll be about it for now. I'll read through now and look through the comments and answer some questions. So if you have any questions, ask. And if you're about to tune out because you've got something else to do, somewhere else to be, some children to feed, whatever, then if you're interested in making inks, drawing portraits, then join me in June for the Ink Naturally class in the Sketchy Art School. It's going to be a lot of fun, and I'm totally looking forward to seeing what you all create. It's such an amazing kind of whirlwind of creative time. Like 30 Faces, 30 Days was just amazing. And come and draw with us on Tuesday. So that's not a part of the Sketchy Art School. That's just something that I do. I used to, well, before lockdown, I was hosting live drawing sessions. And now every Tuesday we meet up and we use Zoom, we draw each other, we talk about what's going on and just have a really good time together. So come draw with us on Tuesday, 2 hours of time portrait drawing. It's super good practice. And sign up for the class. And I'll be live streaming regularly on Sundays now. So keep tuning in and draw together. If you're posting on Instagram, then tag me at Dylan_Sara. I'd love to see what you've created. And now I'm going to start reading through some of these comments. So feel free to go, or if you'd like to hear about some questions, ask some questions, then go for it. Craig, yeah, see you soon. Thank you, Sketchy. It was fun being here and drawing with you. Gunhild. Okay, so what made me start using these inks and pens in the first place? I mentioned earlier that it was just a desire not to create toxic waste and all the kind of rubbish that was associated with the other materials I had been using. And also, I love oil painting, but I get itchy lungs and headaches, and I need to work with open windows. And it was like, oh, this, am I poisoning myself by making art? That's not something I want to do. So that was one of the things that got me into creating non-toxic art supplies. Robin, thank you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for watching. Aaron, thanks. I'm going to scroll back up. Like, subscribe, all of those YouTubey things that people do, so you know when we're going to be live streaming again. It's going to be great. Just looking through some comments here. Seeing if there's anything I missed along the way. Okay, the bonding agent, Jackie asked for the June class. You can buy gum Arabic. That's probably the most easy accessible thing. There are a few different things that you can use, but gum Arabic's pretty standard. You'd be safe with that. If you can't get any cherry sap, then gum Arabic's it's a good one. The mold question, Big Al said, pumpkin stems are fun to ink with. Using as a brush, they do tend to evolve because they're not super hard. Yeah. So you can use anything as a tool to draw with, just like you can make ink out of almost anything. You can use anything to put the ink on the paper. You can get some really interesting results. What is the best smelling ink I've made? Alternative art star. I'm smelling a lot of clove oil at the moment. I like the smell of cloves. I like cloves, and that's my prevents the mold growth. So a lot of I open a jar of ink and it smells like cloves, which is a kind of nice spicy smell. But some of the flower inks I've made have just smelled amazing. I think a couple of weeks ago, cherry blossom ink. So the cherries had been pollinated, they were falling to the ground. It was like a rain of cherry blossoms. And not the petals, but the base of the blossom that holds onto the petal, that was what I used. Maybe I'll switch over now. There's not much else happening now. It's starting to dry. There's some interesting shapes happening with the ink. These cool things that happen at the edge. So I'll just change place. Here I am again. Yeah, the cherry blossom ink smell amazing. Just smelled so sweet and smelled like nectar. It was lovely. I made violet ink as well with actual violets, and it turned out being green instead of violet, but it didn't smell particularly amazing like violets. All these people who were drawing with me, that's great. I'll move the comments over here so it almost looks like I'm looking at you. If I have time, can I share some twig brushes? I will next time. I've got a bunch of pens here with me at the moment, but I'll do something about my different drawing tools so you can see the different things that I work with and try them out. That was a question here from Ashley. Lois from our, it was drawing along with blueberry ink and cranberry ink that you made after the last class. Excellent. I love to hear that people are just getting straight into it and making ink and trying things out. That's wonderful. I will be showing you definitely how to carve pens. I did it at the start of the last live stream that I did, Dania. So you could check that out, or there will be more videos coming up of how I sharpen. I will show you how I sharpen my knife. It's important to have a nice sharp knife, and I will show how I carve pens, definitely. Cynthia got some walnut ink on Amazon, easy. If you don't have walnuts where you are, you can buy it too. But it's so good to make your own art supplies. So yeah, Zacharias asking, yeah, I make my own ink and sticks. So yeah, you can make art everywhere. I don't make my own paper yet, but that could be interesting. Something I'd love to do. But there are so many things I'd love to do and only so much time in the day. Yeah, limitations really push creativity. So just draw with whatever you've got. Claudia's completely flashed. Vorgeflasht. Cool. You can write to me in German as well if you like. Yeah, I think. So heads up on the supplies. Pam, I think that there's a list. So there's a couple of things. You can just, if you've got pen and paper, you can join in calligraphy pen, ideally. But there's also like an extended list of if you want to be making ink, then there are a few things that you'll need. And that I think that's in the listing on the Sketchy Art School, like all the supplies that you need for the class. Oh, a coupon. Today, you can, if you sign up for the class today, then you'll get another ink class free. So check that out, do it today. Sorry I didn't mention that earlier, but yeah, that's a super cool offer. Jude asked if I pick the dead branches from trees. It's better from trees, they tend to rot when they're on the ground. And then you just have this kind of porous wood that you can't use. It's good to have hardwood. So dead trees that are still on the tree. The ink that I made here, Zacharias, was with these chestnut blossoms, and I boiled them in water, and then the pigment comes out. I added baking soda for this orange color, and that's it. And you can put some gum arabic in it as a binder. Essig vinegar as a mordant. There are a few different things you can do to add to it, but you can also just you can almost squeeze out the blossoms and start painting with it. Just experiment with these things. You can crush the flowers onto paper and get a really direct, beautiful pigment as well. All right. So I think I've got all those questions. Did I miss anything? I don't know if you can purchase cherry sap online. I haven't looked because I can just forage it, but you probably can. You can get all sorts of stuff. I've never used honey. I know that you can use that as a binder as well, but I haven't used it. Oh, and Sketchy put up that, yeah, the comment to get that free class. So sign up today and get a free class on Sketchy Art School. Awesome. Blueberry ink smells good. Francis, great. Whether the drawings behind me over on that side were made with natural ink. All of the ones that you saw before on the wall here. Where are we? Here. These are all natural ink portraits here. Jen, thank you so much again for your wonderful face, and I wish you all the best. And yeah, thank you. It was great fun drawing you, and I look forward to see what everyone's going to be creating. Thank you very much. Glad you like it. Yeah, so I think I got all of the questions. Thank you very much for tuning in, for being here, for drawing along, and I'm really looking forward to spending some more time drawing with you and seeing what you're creating. And if you're making inks, then let me know. I'd love to see what you're making and what kind of results you're getting. And if you want some more information on making inks, then sign up to the Ink Naturally class starting in June, because I'll be doing these step-by-step portraits, just talking through my process. And I'll be working with different inks, and we'll have snippets of what goes into the process of creating those inks and making my own tools. So that's the kind of stuff that you can really equip you to get out into the world and find supplies and start making ink as well. Zacharias, thank you very much. Nice to have you here. Action Addy, thank you. Thank you all of you. Stina, thank you. This is wonderful having you here. A question a bit late. Some of the inks fade, some of them don't. It depends if they're exposed to UV light or if you've got them in your sketchbook, it's not really an issue. Big Al, see you Tuesday. So if you're still tuned in or you're watching this after the event, then check out my Instagram at Dylan_Sara and come join us, draw together Tuesday night. It's so much fun. Michelle, thank you. Thank you, John. And keep drawing. And maybe I'll do a few more things to this as it dries, and I'll be uploading that too. So you'll be able to see the finished version as the ink dries. Just pop that back up here. So still drying, and it's going to be interesting. Maybe I'll do some more with the glasses. Maybe I'll leave it like this. We'll see. So thanks a lot, and look forward to drawing again with you soon. Bye-bye.